There we go. Okay. Good morning, everybody. And thank you for either joining live this workshop for intuitives or for purchasing the download of this recording when we are done. So I've mentioned this a couple times. This is one of two classes that I'm going to be doing live. And this one and the workshop for empaths. Those are my two passion projects. And so those are the two that that mean the most to me, that I don't really want to switch to digital, only simply because they garner the most questions, and it is my passion to help people develop intuitively. So let's get started. This is a great topic, and it's one a lot of people are interested in. But before we do, I want to mention that oh, Fiora, I'm getting some feedback. Okay, there it goes. I want to mention that I will be talking a little bit about my workshop for empaths in the middle, and then a little bit about intuitive development one-on-one coaching at the end. So it's not sales. I'm just letting you know what's out there and what you can do if you were to join that program. All right. So I love the phrase modern spirituality. And definitely I consider us, in the group or people that I work with, contemporary mystics. Basically what just that means is that we're approaching spirituality from a different aspect, more of a scientific aspect, but still, you get the mystical, the magical, all of that, the whole, you just can't make this stuff up. But when you develop intuitively, you open yourself up to a whole new world, a way of seeing things. And it's definitely not the way that, the older teachers, back from like the 50s and the 60s, a lot of resources, Dolores Cannon and some of those older teachers, Brian Weiss, who's wonderful. Some of those teachers, they're well into their 60s and their 70s. So I really love to approach this with a fresh new perspective. Who am I? Who am I to teach you these things? So I'm an Akashic reader and a soul blueprint practitioner. Over the years, I've developed my skills as a spirit guide channeling, taking information in, and then sharing it with others. I do consider myself to be a psychic medium, although I don't promote myself as a psychic or a medium, mostly because I am a spiritual medium and not an evidential medium. Evidential mediums are those that give you like solid, yes, this is Uncle George and this is like solid proof. That's not how it comes through to me. It comes through as a spiritual message. I've also recently begun calling myself a numerology practitioner. I have lots to learn, but I do feel as if I have a really good grasp on numerology. So all of that is sort of my experience. I have certifications as a Reiki master teacher and a sound therapy practitioner, where I focus on past life energy in the etheric field or the aura, which we'll learn a little bit about. So if you ever work with me one-on-one in person, the Reiki and sound therapy is something that I occasionally throw in. I've been an intuitive development instructor since 2016, and I have a focus on really just empowering HSPs, intuitives, empaths to develop your abilities. And then that helps you align with your soul blueprint. And the soul blueprint is really my true passion. All right. So I am of the belief that intuitive abilities are not gifts. A lot of times you'll see people, referring to them as gifts. They're not gifts. They are skills. They are abilities. Those skills are inherent in your soul blueprint, in your DNA. They are meant to be developed, and every single human has the ability to sense energy and communicate with spiritual beings or on the same level as spiritual beings. It just depends on who has developed it. So To effectively develop your abilities, I really recommend an organized but natural progression. And this is what I found over the course of working with people, that the first thing that has to happen is you have to manage your empathic abilities. Okay. Next, you want to develop those resulting intuitive abilities that will emerge. Because once you manage your empathic abilities and you're learning what energy isn't yours, you become way more sensitive to messages that come in. You're like, that's not mine. And I'm not picking up somebody else's stuff because I know how to keep myself from doing that. So this must be an intuitive message. Then from that, abilities that emerge, you'll develop in mediumship, learning how to channel, all of that. And that's when those advanced abilities come. Even though there are only 4 steps to this sort of blurb, it's a long process. And it's not, I don't say that like, oh, it's going to take forever. I just say that it is this long, beautiful road that is rich and layered and really, really, really something to be enjoyed and not rushed. All right, so develop intuitively. There are several areas that you're going to want to explore, and those are the areas that we're going to talk about throughout this whole presentation. The first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have a general knowledge about the chakra system, your energy system. We'll touch on it in this presentation just to help you understand what it is you need to get into. So learn a little bit about your chakra system. There are more than just 7. Some sources will tell you that there's, 200 chakras, but learn about them. Learn about your lower chakras, your higher chakras, and then there are the advanced chakras, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So learn about those, spend some time really digging into those because it's really, really very cool. Your root chakras is attached to your feelings of basic trust, sacral, sexuality, and creativity, and so on. So learning how to tap into those energy centers, make sure that they're open and flowing, is really a cool process in developing intuitively. We start and end as energy. We are energy. We are energetic beings. We are spiritual beings. We are not physical beings. We are inhabiting a physical body. So it's really important to learn how your energy works. That's something else that you want to spend some time exploring. Again, resources, books, websites, mentors, teachers, classes, workshops, all of those things. How does energy work? So let's just briefly touch on that. So here we have a picture of the 7 chakras, and then it also shows you the root chakra, what sort of the element is that it manages, or I don't know, manages is a good term. And then you also see the etheric bodies. Okay, so we have 7 layers, 3 different bodies. It is a very cool system, and there's a lot going on within our aura or our etheric field. That's where we store all of our memories, our emotions, past life memories, our reactions, all of those things. And that's why when I focus on sound therapy, I work actually in your etheric field or your aura, your soul, whatever you want to call it. Another thing to sort of keep in mind that is more of a contemporary theory versus, old school, is that similar to the amniotic sac pre-birth, the physical body is supported by the etheric field post-birth. So a lot of times the soul is described as, being located within the heart center. And that's just, in my belief, is that's not the case. It's actually the soul is, or I'm sorry, our aura is our soul. And that's what supports the physical body contained within, exactly like the amniotic sac supporting the baby pre-birth. So it's worth a dive into that. That can take you down a rabbit hole, but it's a pretty cool rabbit hole. Vibrational frequency, that is it's one of the most important things to understand when you develop intuitively, because that is directly related to your ability to connect and communicate with your intuition, with your spirit guides, your vibe. That's your vibe, and that's carried in all of those different energetic layers of the body, that rainbow that we just saw. So being really aware of your vibe is important. So it's helpful to understand why it's so important. So if you look at this frequency scale, it goes from 0 to 1,000. 0 being death, and then 1000 being source consciousness, right? Our higher selves, or, when we are back in spirit and we are a part of that source consciousness. So, what happened, so we have 500. 500 is the vibrational frequency of love. You've heard of the term 500 or above. That's sort of the frequency that you'd like to maintain. Our spirit guides vibrate anywhere at about 700 or above. So they vibrate very, very high. So therefore, when we are feeling frustrated or depressed, sad, and we ask for guidance from our guides, they have to lower their vibe about 500 hertz in order to be a vibrational match for us to receive that guidance. Listen, that's incredibly difficult for them. And so, this is why it's so important, and why I tell everybody that I work with intuitively, you have to ask for guidance and immediately thank your guides in advance. Gratitude and appreciation just automatically raise that vibration. Then go about your day, go do something that you love. If you're feeling really, really down and depressed, I know it's hard to then be like, okay, what do I love to do? But if you're truly in development mode and you sincerely want those answers, this is how you get that. Go about your day and do something that you enjoy. Because when you do that, your frequency automatically and naturally raises. And so that means they have to lower their vibe less, and somehow we'll get that message to you through one of your clairs or through symbols, whatever. So when you've become a vibrational match for the easiest method for them to connect with us, which Esther Hicks calls the path of least resistance, the messages come through. You get those messages. You're like, oh, okay, now I know what I need. And that's often going to come in a moment of joy, peace, inspiration, appreciation when you're creating. When I am feeling low, I make jewelry. I just go to my bench and I just start playing with my jewelry, and then that raises my vibration, and then typically those messages come through. So that's just one aspect of managing your personal energy. You learn to manage your energy, then you're much more aware when you're walking around picking things up, which we go into great detail in Workshop for Empaths. You'll definitely want to also, in intuitive development, learn to master your empathic abilities by strengthening your personal and energetic boundaries. And even though we're going to go into detail in that in a future class, in this class, I would like to give you a little bit of a tip. So I tell my one-on-one students, well, and my clients too, a lot of times this comes through in their Akashic records, that they need to strengthen their personal boundaries. So I tell them 3 times a day for 30 days. If you do this 3 times a day for 30 days, you absolutely 100% will see a change. You'll notice a difference. So what you're going to do is you're going to just find a space that's quiet. You're going to breathe deeply in through the nose and then long exhale out through the mouth. I'll just do this once so you know, in through the nose and then long exhale out. That is going to help trigger your body's relaxation response and take you down into the alpha state. And that's where you want to be, just relaxed. Then you'll visualize source energy entering your energy field, your aura, your crown chakra, your body. However you're comfortable visualizing it, that's what you're going to visualize. I want you to get to a point where you feel the power of source energy sort of joining with yours. Feel it on your skin, feel it in your body. You can feel that shift. If you can't, that's not a problem, but that is something to keep in mind that you want to learn how to discern. When I open up the Akashic records, I can feel that energy shift, sort of like I'm being hit with a soft pillow. So just be very cognizant of what those energy shifts within your own body. By the end of 30 days, you'll have recognized that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to set the intention that, nobody can take this energy from you. Nobody can intrude upon it without your permission. That's your energy field. And everybody just needs to sort of keep their boundaries. And then you're just going to sort of close that process out with some sort of formalizing sound or image. You can visualize a gavel, or I like to visualize audiently, like the Law and Order doink doink, just to say, so it is, so mote it be. Let it be so. 3 times a day for 30 days, and you'll notice a difference for sure. All right. So as an empath, and mastering your empathic abilities, which ultimately lead to your intuitive abilities popping up, you have the ability to transform the energy of others, right? You are a transmuter, to make up some word. So rather than shielding yourself, it's critical to learn to manage, project, and transmute the energy that you come into contact with. So what you're doing is you're not shielding yourself when you're calling in that light into your auric field or your etheric field. You're claiming your space. You're claiming your sovereignty. You're saying, my boundaries, my space. Empaths are not vulnerable sponges who need to shield themselves. Listen, it's exhausting. It won't work. It's not sustainable. Shields are not sustainable. It's also not going to work because you're operating from a mindset that you're not powerful enough to protect your own energy. That's not empowering, and that's a subconscious vibrational match to being powerful. So you really want to be very aware of what you're thinking about that, as well as the practices that you're implementing to fortify your own mindset. All right. So to learn to master your empathic abilities, there's so much more to it. And we talk about crystals, we talk about sound, we talk about, actual energy management and boundaries and all of those things. The workshop for empaths, same thing, live, but you can also purchase the download, same price, $22, September 11th, 2021. So it's in about, a little bit over a month, same time. So join if you care. It is a very, very, very good workshop. All right. So to develop your abilities intuitively, the next thing that you're going to want to learn about is your intuition, your spiritual awakening. Okay. What does that mean? What is that? So let's talk about that a little bit. So that's a really important step in your development, is sort of exploring the concept of what a spiritual awakening and ascension is. So here's an easy way to break it down. On an individual level, awakening is the process of transforming your consciousness from one set of beliefs in reality to another, right? You believe one thing, and then you start to learn that, wait a minute, whoa, I do have a spiritual guides. There is more to this. Like, you can't make this stuff up. That's that mindset. Now, collectively as a whole, on a planetary collective level, ascension is the collective awakening of a set of beliefs to the extent that they create a new reality and a new state of consciousness. Consciousness is energy, and energies are dimension. So when you hear people talking about third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, all of that, we are in a third dimensional energy consciousness right now. We believe in the tangible. We believe if we can't see it, hear it, touch it, taste it, or smell it, it doesn't exist, right? Well, most people believe that. We are a little bit more woke than that, but collectively we're living in a third dimensional reality. So what's happening, the level or the process of ascension, is that over the next 200, 300, 400 years, I honestly don't know how long it would take, more and more and more and more of us will learn to believe in ourselves as spiritual beings versus physical beings. We'll start to believe in ourselves as having a physical experience. And as that happens, we'll have less of a need for communicating with voice and more telepathy. Those higher advanced abilities are going to start being people are going to be born, advanced psychics and intuitives and mediums. So again, this is a collective ascension, which is a collective awakening. Very cool topic. Do some Googling on it. There's so many rabbit holes you can get down into, lots of them. All right. Learning to connect with your intuition is also learning to connect to your higher self or source energy. So make sure that you explore the many practices that are out there. Dig into that. Meditation, breath work, journaling. There's so many cool practices out there. I listed like three. Um, yeah, again, rabbit hole, but in a good way. Lots to learn out there. The biggest obstacle that people have with developing intuitively is not trusting themselves and the messages that they receive. Biggest obstacle. And so that is where I would recommend that you focus the majority of your energy in the very beginning. How do I learn to trust myself? How do I know? Because we don't trust ourselves. We think we're making it up. There's all sorts of things that go through our mind. Intuition is the knowing, that inner knowing that you can't explain. It's that deep inner feeling in your gut. It's in your head. It's in your mind. You hear things, you're like, it comes through the most easily when you're calm and relaxed and your mind is free of resistant emotions. This is why I got some typos here. This is why it's so important to be aware of your emotional and your physical bodies. What's going on within your emotion, what's going on within your physical. One of the things that you can do is undertake a solid shadow work practice or program. Get a mentor. Fiora teaches shadow work. She has some great classes out there. She will work one on one with you. There are books, resources. There's lots out there. I just recommend that you make sure that those practices and that those teachers are empowering and teach you how to create by getting to the root of your inner child. All right, so it's important to learn to discern fear versus intuition, right? You hear a lot of times you'll hear people talk about, well, is this ego or is this my intuition? So it's important to know the difference. It's critical. So your intuition is recognized as that inner guidance and knowing, your internal compass. But here's where it gets important. It makes you feel excited, expansive, and optimistic, even if you're scared. You can still be scared. You can still be like, I don't know what's going to happen, right? It's freaking me out. But at the same time, you're still excited. You're not going to let it stop you. You're being pulled outside of your comfort zone, but it's exciting. Intuition helps us step outside of our comfort zone in a positive way. Fear, however, that's your ego, and that's going to express itself through a physical response, such as anger, adrenaline, a racing heart. Fear will cause you to avoid, to stop, to not do it, which is not a bad thing, right? Fear keeps us safe. The ego gets a bad rap. Ego keeps us safe. But I'm talking about in instances like don't go down that dark alley, right? Or, slow down, stop driving, 90 and a 30, whatever. This is, do I make that big move to the West Coast? Do I let fear stop me or, do I listen to my intuition? Fear will also always tell you that you're not good enough, that you can't do it. You're going to feel, when you make a decision based on fear, you're going to feel disappointed. You're going to feel heavy, stuck. You may feel anxiety and, just heaviness and dissatisfaction. So learning the difference is going to make a huge impact in your decision making. You're not alone. Call on your spirit guides. They can help you learn to trust yourself, but you do have to ask. You have to ask your spirit guides, and we'll get into that a little bit more. Just ask for easily identifiable and obvious signs and symbols in order to validate what it is that you already know. Okay. Symbols, feathers, numbers, animal guides, all of those things. Ask for them and then be open to them. And if you see numbers all the time, ask for numbers. If you see animal guides all the time, ask for animals, coins, whatever it is. Ask for spirit to work with you. Remember, they want to connect with you through the path of least resistance. Ashley, do you have a question?
Yeah, on that topic, I was wondering, is it always, are you, when you're saying like, I'm looking for, a sign, is it always the same sign? Like, like seeing animals is like my sign, I think. Or,
Ah,
is that, is it always the same or?
Well, it's the path of least resistance. So your guys know that you look for animals, so they're going to give you animals. Now, once you start acknowledging that and you say, "Thank you, Spirit, I'd like to see something else, something more,"
Okay.
then they'll eventually start moving in different signs and symbols until you get to the point where everything you see, your first thought is that a sign? It could be animals, money, or coins, numbers. It could be anything, but yeah, it's tried and true. So it won't always be animals unless you're comfortable with that. If you are, then that's what it is.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question. All right. All right. So learning how to hear your intuition and identifying your intuition from ego is wonderful and amazing. But then you're going to have to put that into practice, right? And learning how to work with your higher self is another really important aspect of developing intuitively. When I stopped asking my spirit guides for help and insight, and instead started asking my higher self, it was a game changer for me. Not that my spirit guides aren't just as talented, skilled, knowledgeable, and amazing as my higher self, but the higher self is just a different concept, because then learning, you're trusting yourself, because the higher self, think of it like this. Actually, I think the next screen sort of identifies who that higher self is. All right. Your higher self is a spirit guide, just like all of your other guides, but they are also your divine self and part of the cosmic consciousness. So if you think about it in terms of numbers, let's say your higher self is 100%, right? And then your higher self is like, well, I want to incarnate into this world as Joe, but I'm only going to put 25% of my consciousness in Joe, and I'm going to be the other 75%. I'm going to be the governing body, right? I'm going to make sure that she stays on track and she meets her goals and all that stuff. So that's why it's so easy to communicate with your higher self, because it's you. But the way that you communicate is through your imagination, visualizations, meditations, dreams, symbols, stories, tarot, prayer. It's all those intuitive or divinity practice or divinity practices. There's a word I'm looking for, but divinity tools. So, the simplest way to activate your higher self connection or strengthen your higher self connection is just by quieting your mind, going inward. You don't necessarily need meditation and breath work for that specifically, but I do recommend it all the time, because both can act to get you into that alpha state quicker. And that's where you want to be. You want to be into the alpha state or deeper, and just ask questions, right? If you want a more active medium, if you are still learning to trust what comes through, then you can use things like your tarot, oracle, or whatever that will help you communicate. I always pull tarot cards just because it's easier, and it's quick, it's to the point, and that it's fun to do that as well, because it's like, once again, it's like you just can't make this stuff up. All right. So when you're connected with your higher self, this is how you're going to know. There are just some indications. You feel really calm and centered. You see things with more compassion. You have that long term focus. Like, yes, I know that I want these things now, but also, what do I need to do in the long term? The ego is going to want it now, now, now. Higher self intuition is going to be more long term focused to pave that path for success. Creativity, inspiration. You're able to set strong boundaries. You're able to calmly and clearly say no and mean it, but you're also able to be compassionate with others and firm. You're operating from that higher self. You're seeking what's right and good in all people and situations. You're not being a Judge Judy or George or whatever, right? Which, we all go through that. But basically, you're first and foremost being like, all right, well, let's see what's good in this person or this situation. And then you always look for something to be appreciative of. Now, these are just some small or just some of the ways. There's no right or wrong way that you experience your higher self, but it is really important to pay attention to how you do, so that you can learn to discern that. You can learn to say, yep, I'm in my higher self right now. Remember, I said that ego's primary purpose is to keep us safe, but ego also likes to create doubts and fear to protect us against possible threat, right? The ego's paranoid, and it's honestly, the ego is not at all concerned with our happiness or our spiritual development, and that's not a bad thing, because it's concerned with keeping us safe, but it's not going to ever take that into account. So you would liken that to being in the physical or being in the spiritual. The spiritual, when we're in our spiritual, we're very concerned with our spiritual growth and progression. When we're in the physical, we're more concerned with obtaining, those physical pursuits. So the more that you align with your higher self, the more dominant that voice becomes, and it's easier to recognize and call forth. All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments about any of this? Okay, that was my drink break. All right, so let's talk about how to connect with your spirit guides. First off, let's talk about the role of your guides. So there is a lot that they're here to do. They're help to keep us aligned with our soul blueprint. We've signed contracts with them, or we have contracts with them, and their purpose or path is to help us on our purpose or path. That's why you should never worry about bothering them, annoying them, being annoying, anything like that. They've been in human form before, many of them, unless you're working with an ascended master or something. Well, even then, ascended masters have been in human form. There are some guides that have never taken human form before, but again, it's a good opportunity to get on the Google and find out, what all that's about. So they're there specifically for us. They will not help us get out of situations that are for, or that we find ourselves in based on choice or free will, or that are part of our soul blueprint. But they will guide and support us through those sort of challenges. If you're ever feeling blocked, a lot of people say, well, I'm blocked, I'm not hearing them. um, Let me see here. Hold on. We've got to chat a question. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Carrie. All right. Feeling blocked or out of touch. The, the, you can't. That's not a thing. It's hard to describe, but it's energy, your energy, and energy can get bottlenecked, but it can't ever get blocked. If that's the case, then you're at a zero frequency and you're dead. So if you feel blocked, that just means that you have to figure out what it is. Maybe the path of least resistance to trying to get your guides to connect to you. Maybe you've been trying to do it audiently and you need to just do it clairvoyantly. There has to be some reason. And so working with somebody, booking a reading, or working with an energy therapy practitioner, or, any metaphysical healing practitioner will help you find out the source of your blocks. And that will help your intuition flow. And then you'll start to get those messages more clearly from your spirit guides. Is it real, or are you making it up? That's isn't that the question, right? Again, learning between intuition and ego will help, but there's a few more ways that you can discern whether it's real or whether you're making it up. And then offering, and we'll get into those, and then offering respect and appreciation of your guides. It's so easy for us to get mad and shake our fists at the ceiling or the sky or whatever and be like, why aren't you giving me this thing I want? Why aren't you, I do it myself, right? I tend to just, flip the bird, but that's me. I'm like a little different. But at the core, treat them like you would any, your best friend, your significant other, your child. Treat them with love and respect and appreciation, because that's what they give us, and that's what we really, really need to give back to them. It also helps raise the vibrational frequency when we tell them, thank you, I appreciate you so much, you're very helpful. Just a good practice. All right. So when you want to connect with them, There are several things just to keep in mind. Okay. Meditation. It's extremely important when you're working to develop your intuitive abilities. Develop a practice, even if it's just like 5 minutes, maybe 3 times a week, but you want to give yourself that opportunity, that space to connect with your spirit guides, to connect with your intuitive abilities. That's going to also help you determine what your strongest intuitive ability is, which we will talk about in a minute. So if you're doing nothing else to develop your abilities, at least start a consistent practice of meditation. It's free. You can go on YouTube, or there are apps out there, and it only takes a little bit of a time, little time each day. The other thing that you have to do is, because of free will, is you have to ask. You have to say, okay, a lot of times if I'm lamenting with, one of my peers or a mentor, and I say, this thing hasn't happened, why? And one of the first questions I'll always say is, did you ask? And then a lot of times I'll be like, I don't know if I've actually officially said, okay, spirit, I want this thing. So make sure that you're actually doing that. And that's what you're asking yourself. They have contracted with us to support us. But like I said, free will, we have to ask our guides for their assistance before they can intervene. Now, I've said it before, and maybe you have said it, but they should know what's best for me. But should they? Because why? You know what I mean? Yes, they have your soul blueprint and everything, but it's about developing that connection with them. Also, placing all the work on them sort of makes you a passive participant in your life. And the whole point of incarnation is to learn how to co create with spirit, to create your own experiences. That's why we come incarnate. That's why we incarnate. So you got to do the work. It also helps if you express your desires clearly, very clearly. Not, I want this, 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 and this time. You say, this is what I want to experience. And then let those details sort of leave that up to spirit. And then the final thing is, when connecting, is again showing appreciation. Like I said, they treat us with love and respect and kindness. So it's important to give that same courtesy to them. Also, laughing with them. I have a spirit guide. His name is Adam, and he is the biggest smartass. And he's one of the first ones that came through for me. So I've been working with Adam for years, and I found out that he was my brother in a past life. And I'm not kidding. Like, I already have a ridiculous sense of humor, but there are times when I'll be driving along. It happens a lot with billboards. He likes billboards. I don't know why, but he'll see a billboard and then he'll just make this smart ass comment. And so what I'll just hear the smart ass comment in my head and then start freaking dying, because he really does have a great sense of humor. But what that does too is that laughter helps raise your vibrational frequency. So laughing and being joyful and all of that, they love that. So show appreciation, and then try to identify the spirit guide, with the best sense of humor. Another thing that really is easy to that comes out through the Akasha is, when I'm working with clients, their spirit guides will come through, and many times they have these wonderful, jovial, hilarious personalities. We think spirit guides are very stoic, and some are, but they're stoic for a very specific reason, right? The reason that they're working with you. But the majority of spirit guides are actually quite funny and have wonderful personalities. So learn learn what that is, because it's going to be one that their personality is going to be one that you vibe with, because if you didn't, you wouldn't have contracted with them. All right. So identifying your strongest clair abilities is very important, because then you need to know where to focus your work. So we're going to go over some descriptions on the next couple slides. I want you to look at those, and I want you to see and take note of which resonate with you. You don't have to have every trait within each ability. Just simply use them as examples, right? Use them as a guide. You may be able to receive information in all of the ways. Actually, there's 6 ways, but usually one or two of these abilities will be stronger than the others. If you have clairsentience and you sense things and feel things, it may be easier for you than clairaudience, where you hear things. But the more that you use them, the more that they'll start to work together. Again, it's a layered effect. They will begin to layer upon each other to give you a more complete picture in your mind's eye. Um, Also, when something comes in, whether it be clairvoyantly, clairaudiently, when you just take a second, and that's why you'll see me close my eyes a lot if you work with me, to stand in your senses, and really let that sense sort of come over you completely, it's going to be a lot easier to develop when you start with the ability that feels the most natural to you, and sort of standing in that sense and letting it sort of fill up your entire aura is how you really develop a connection with it. All right. First one is clairsentience. That's clear feeling or sensing. And it can be summed up in the expression, trust your gut, right? It's also the base of empathy, and where you're feeling the emotions of others. It is also your empathy is also a clairsentient trait. All right. You may be clairsentient if you feel the emotions of others. If you reading or watching the news can be upsetting, I can't watch the news because I get annoyed. And then watching sad movies, I can't watch boxing movies for some reason. Like I can't watch any movie where people get hit. Um, if you find that your mood declines when you're in a negative environment or after having spent time around somebody who is irritable or negative, that may be your clairsentience. Sensitive to your surroundings. A cluttered house might bother you. Clutter really bothers me. And then if you get good or bad feelings about situations or people that you've just met, pay attention to those, because we certainly don't want to be that person who doesn't like anybody, who's like, I don't like them, I got a bad feeling about them. But sometimes you legitimately do. So ask yourself, okay, is this just me being annoying or being annoyed and judgmental, or is this a legitimate feeling? That may be that's clairsentience at work. Hold on here, I wonder if I made all right. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go back to the other two because I think I mixed these slides up. Clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is clear seeing. Clairvoyance, you receive information visually in the form of pictures, symbols. I am clairvoyant. That's one of my primary abilities. And so you'll always see me close my eyes. I always do. It just helps me to see it better. It's an inner sight that takes place in the mind's eye, as well as externally. So you may also see external things. You might see shadows. You might see little blips, like little sparkles of light. I call those sparkies. You might see auras. You might see, you see things and you think, what did I just see? That's clairvoyance, and it's external as well. Now, some people do see full-bodied spirits, apparitions, but remember, those spirits have to lower their vibration enough to appear to you, and usually the spirits that are going to appear to you are sucking that energy from you in order to appear to you. Those are lower vibrational spirits, earthbound spirits, whole other topic, whole other video class. So typically I don't see earthbound spirits or visually, but I do see those little sparkies all the time, and I love them. Now, your strongest ability is often linked to your learning ability. So clairvoyants are often visual learners, okay? You're a visual learner, you're good at visualization, you have vivid dreams or psychic visions, you can easily imagine or daydream, you enjoy very creative pursuits, painting, all of that thing, jewelry making. If you are able to see spirit either in your mind's eye or in physical form, or like I said, those twinkling or sparkling lights, shadows, that sort of thing, then you may have clairvoyance. Ashley, I see you shaking your head. Do you get the sparklies?
I get the sparklies all the time, and
Yes.
I know that you're not a fan of fairies, but I was
Oh,
like, "Oh, maybe it's just the fairies,"
oh no,
but
I love fairies. They're my
oh,
favorite.
I thought they were little nuisances too.
No,
But,
no, I love them.
okay, yeah, but when you said sparkles, I was like, because I was like, "Oh, I wish I was clairvoyant," that would be
Well,
so cool, and everything on this list, I'm like, "But the sparkles, dude, I see them all the time."
yes, yes. And when I first started developing clairvoyance, that's what I saw. It's funny too, because I remember I would say to myself, I wish I was psychic when I was like 14. I wish I
Yeah.
was psychic. So typically, those things that we desire, that's a great example of we are those things. We just need to learn to let them out and develop them. So there you go.
Thank
Develop
you.
your clairvoyance. Clairaudience That's clear hearing. That's when you hear with your inner ear. That's how I hear spirit, how they talk to me. It's just phrases or words or full on conversations. Sometimes it'll pop into my head. You can also hear them externally. A lot of times when I was younger, I would hear like loud claps, or I would hear my name being called, and I would be like, who the hell just said that? So, you know, once you go back and you're like, oh, that was clairaudience or the beginnings of clairaudience. Clairaudience are also channels. So if you are able to channel, or if you're clairaudient, know that that's also a gift that you'll develop as, or an advanced ability that you can develop, as well as mediumship. Because, and we'll get into what the difference is there. You may be clairaudient if you hear ringing in your ears. Now, remember that some of that are, those are downloads from, that's a whole other story. But basically, that's your light body, your carbon-based frequencies changing. Your frequencies changing from carbon-based to light-based. That's what those downloads are that you hear. But you might hear those from time to time. If you've heard voices or your name being called when no one was around, if you learn best by listening, by somebody explaining to you rather than reading. I can't read anything. I'm like, I don't know what the hell this is, so I need somebody to explain it to me or show me. If you're sensitive to noise, like loud people or situations, if you're that person who is driving and you can't find a place, you got to turn the radio down, right? Because that's it's always cracks me. I'm like, it has nothing to do with the fact that I can't find this place, but it helps me focus when it's quiet. And if you're musically inclined to find it enjoyable, to write music or create music or whatever, play music, a lot of times if you will hear songs, you'll hear songs in your head, or people say things and your first thought is immediately to liken it to a sound, or to a song. That has a lot to do with clairaudience. Claircognizance is clear knowing. You just know stuff. You just know. You don't know how you know it. There's no logical reason for you to know it. Evidential mediums a lot of times experience a high level of claircognizance. You may be claircognizant if you tend to be very analytical, if you have answers and knowing that just pop into your mind out of the blue. When you know someone is lying or being insincere, that's a huge tell. That's also a tell of clairsentience. You can sense their energy, you can sense emotions there, all of that. And if you tend to know the outcome or the truth of a situation, then you may be exhibiting your claircognizance abilities. All right, now we're going to go back here. The last two are really cool. They're clear taste and clear smelling. Now, these are a little bit rare. We do have a couple members of the group in the Woke Akashic group who do have these. And then I've experienced them now and then. I've never experienced the clear taste, just clear smelling. Clear taste is cool. It's the most unusual of all of the psychic phenomena, and it allows the person to taste a substance associated with someone or something. It's also, clairgustance and clairalience are also closely related to the phenomena called synesthesia. So if you have any interest in that, do some research into that. It's a really cool topic. Those with the ability of clear taste, they basically experience that taste sensation without actually placing anything on their tongue or in their mouth. So one of my friends, he can taste people's energy. So he tells me that my energy tastes like ginger, another person's tastes like blueberries, and another person's tastes like, bitter coffee. So it's very cool. And that's how he determines, I guess, whether or not he wants to interact with somebody based on their taste. He doesn't really like to talk about it or experience it because he says people treat it like it's a sideshow, but I think it's cool as hell. And trust me, if that was mine, I would be talking about it to the rooftops. But people are different. Very, very, very cool. And usually the two, clairalience and clairgustance, go hand in hand. And it's not unusual for a psychic or an intuitive to experience a certain taste along with that accompanying smell. Clairalience is clear smelling, and a lot of people will experience that as they'll say that they smell cigarette smoke, and then they know that there's a spirit around. So I don't necessarily smell cigarette smoke. I smell stale old cigarette, and then I know that there's a spirit. That's not what they smell like. That's just how my nose has accustomed to know that there's a spirit around. It's very weird. So it could be any smell. I wish it were like strawberries, but I probably could change that if I focused on it and asked spirit to help me work on it. It's just I just don't care. There's a spirit around. But that ability also occurs in psychic and non-psychic people. It's very, very normal. And you'll hear most people saying, I smelled cigarette smoke, I smelled something, flowers. And you can usually use this. If you tap into that, you can get intuitive information on that spirit. um, okay, I smell cigarette smoke, so who's here, okay, male, male energy, and then how are they feeling, scared, fearful, happy, hello, you know what I mean? Like, that's how you can tap into that energy, or that knowing, I should say. So those are the six senses. And so take a minute and, figure out which one you most identify with, and then do all the things to develop that. Again, it's layered. So once you develop one, those others are going to come in as support or backup eventually. All right. Creating a sacred space, very important. What you see here, my desk behind me, my office, this is my sacred space. I don't have this lovely space like in the picture here, but I've had this picture for like 6 years, and so eventually that will be my space. I love it. It's just so fun and boho and cool, and so I recommend that you develop a sacred space. It's very important that you have a space that nurtures the development of your intuitive abilities, as well as being sort of a sanctuary. You want to feel good when you're in there. You want to feel cozy and good, and have those really cool things, a chair and pillows. You want to have your altar in there if you do an altar. I'm not an altar person, but I do have all of my fun things around me: my candles, my crystals, my statues of Ganesha, all of those things. My future space, oh, you betcha it's going to have a water feature. I'll have a damn waterfall if I can. I'd have it in the water if I could. But you want to make sure that you have a salt lamp and a table to hold your crystals and totems and candles and incense and all that stuff. So make the space yours, make sure that it honors your soul, and then trust yourself, your intuition, have fun. I tell people, go into meditation and visualize what your room looks like, and then recreate that in real life as best you can. All right, connecting to spirit. Sometimes it happens naturally, automatically, but in the very beginning, you want to develop what's called an intentional connection method. Okay. When you want to connect, you have to let spirit know you're ready to work with them, and the easiest way to do that is having some sort of intentional connection method. It's not as stoic as it sounds. It's any process that you prefer. You can sit down and do a prayer or meditation. When I open up the Akashic records, I say a prayer. So that's when spirit knows, okay, she wants to open up the records. But it can also be a mantra, a phrase, a song. You can light a candle. You can read from a book. You can move, dance, whatever. A lot of people connect to spirit when they are out in nature. So they're running, they're hiking, they're biking, they're walking, they're doing walking labyrinth. It can be anything that you love, but it's just your sort of on switch and say, okay, spirit, let's talk. You want to make it personal, and you want to have it be consistent, because it's going to become a part of your process, and it's going to become that foundation on which you build upon. You might start with meditation, but then add in other things over the years, or months or whatever. So again, it's just letting spirit know that you're ready to connect very easily. You're going to take several deep breaths. You're going to ground your energy, which just means you're going to visualize energy coming in through your head, entering your whole body, and then going down out of your feet, connecting to source energy in the middle of the earth, like Gaia, the earth, whatever. That's grounding. You can also ground outside with your feet, standing on like a tree, a tree root or grass or whatever, if you're doing it outside. Then you want to slow your mind. You want to visualize making room for spirit by expanding your aura to 15 feet around you. Visualize that aura, and then visualize just that you're opening yourself up for spirit, right? only the highest level spirit guides, guardians, and angels. You're not going to be opening them anything up yourself, anything. You're not going to be opening yourself up to anything scary. Okay. And then perform your intentional connection method. And then while you're doing that, visualize just welcoming in your team to blend with your energy. Close my eyes, having the light completely fill me, see that light connecting to Gaia, and then welcoming in all of my spiritual team. Oh, hey, Adam. Hey, Hank. Hey, all of the names that I have for them. And then say, all right, I'm ready. Now, I do want to point out that when you're developing, that's a really great way to do it. Trust me that once you've been doing this every day for years and years, like I have, you don't need to. You just don't. I mean, they know. I do say the prayer, the Akashic for the Akashic records, but other than that, I'm just like, I just close my eyes and I'm just like, all right, let it come. So you will get to that point where you don't have to do all of these things, but it's fun to do them and learn how to do them naturally and instantly. Be sure to take your time when you choose that intentional method and have fun with it. If you don't like to meditate, don't meditate. I tell people, don't meditate like a Buddhist if you're not Buddhist. Like, what good is that doing? You're just going to get mad and frustrated. Instead, try something else. Breathwork, holding crystals. You can just hold your crystal and connect to their energy. That's an intentional method connection. If you already have one that you love, just look at it and just see if you can tweak it, if you can modify it, if you want to add things in or take things away. Just make sure that you're doing something that you enjoy and that you look forward to so that you'll do it. And then again, let it become, perfect it, and then let it become an important part of your spiritual practice. All right. So from there, your exploration and growth process is endless. Once you have an intentional connection, you start connecting to spirit. You identified your strongest intuitive ability. You're receiving messages. You're having conversations, and you're developing your relationship with spirit. When you consider yourself maybe an intermediate, and you're like, I want to start diving into the more advanced stuff. That's when you get into stuff like co-creation, manifestation, mediumship, channeling, the Akashic records, astral travel, and telepathy. A lot of times those things will already pop in. They'll pop in the beginning and intermediate phase of your development. Make note of them and explore them. But when you're ready, for you, or your spirit guides are ready, or your soul blueprint says, okay, now it's time for you to learn mediumship and channeling, because then you're going to turn around and take that out and become a mediumship, or become a medium or a channel to help others, to be in service to others, to start your own holistically based spiritual business, or side gig, or whatever. Listen to your gut and your interests. Any single thing you're interested in, every single thing, whether it's crocheting or starting a booming wellness retreat business, the reason that you are interested in these things is because that is written in your soul blueprint as the potential and possibility of something that you can do that you love. So anything you're interested in, make note of it, because that is written in your soul blueprint. All right. So, what's the difference between all of those higher advanced abilities? Let's just quickly touch on a couple of them. Mediumship is when you're using your abilities and you're communicating with spirit, but you're translating the messages for others. So, when I'm a medium, the messages are coming into me clairaudiently, and then I'm in turn interpreting them for my client. I'm the medium, I'm the go-between. But when I'm a channel, sometimes spirit doesn't want me to interpret. They're kind of like, move over, scooch over. So that's when I say, okay. And then they just speak through me. It's kind of like my consciousness takes a back seat, and then stuff just comes out of my mouth. I don't always remember what comes out. So that's why if you're a channel, it's best to use automatic writing, journaling, or just typing it on your computer or device, because it's very difficult to remember those. It's not your consciousness. You can't tap into your own memory. You can only remember the same amount of information that you are able to remember from somebody else having a conversation with you. It's weird, but very freaking cool. They will communicate directly through you without the need for interpretation. And it's also important to do this when you are very clear about who can channel through you. Only the highest level spirit guides, guardians, angels, and loved ones representing divinity. Anybody else? Absolutely not. No way. All right, the Akashic records. Think of the Akashic records as sort of cloud storage for the universe. That cloud storage details every single experience, thought, word, and action that's happened in all dimensions, all consciousness, all of existence. It's a very cool energy to tap into. It takes a minute because it can feel overwhelming, but it's very cool to learn how to tap into your own and then learn to tap into others if that's what you're meant to do. I do not have a class on the books for that, but I am going to bring that. I am going to do that. So it's in the plans. And when I do, of course, the group will be the first place that I announce that. Astral travel and telepathy. They're usually those two things happen inwardly. Astral travel is an intentional out of body experience. So where the astral body is capable of traveling away from the physical body. A lot of times people that experience this will say that they have sleep paralysis or night paralysis. I had this last night. And so I knew I was dreaming and I knew I wasn't really, but I had to like sort of jolt myself out of it. And then as soon as I did, I was like, ugh, I hate the feeling. My grandma and my uncle were badass astral travelers. And I inherited that from them. So when I was little, I would astral travel all the time. But as I got older and I started developing, I started getting sleep paralysis. And I hate the feeling because it feels like I'm being held down and bound, right? And I'm like, absolute no. And I said, that's it, no more. And they stopped. It just stopped dead cold. Well, it's starting to come back. So I'm going to have a talk with my guides because clearly they either feel that I can handle it now or that they want me to do something with it. So we'll figure it out, but I don't really care for it. I know Fiora is a very good astral travel. She does it all the time in her dreams and helps people and all that good stuff. So, there are lots of people that can teach us how to do that effectively. And hopefully, she can have one day teach us all a class. Telepathy, now that's also a higher advanced ability, and that's something that I've had my whole life, but that's starting to really ramp up now. So that's the next ability that I'm going to try to find a mentor to help me develop that. It's a transference of thought from one person to another without speaking. So what's happening is that a lot of times I'll think of somebody and then they'll call me. I'm not even kidding. It's not even like precognition. It's just I'll think of someone and boom, within a day or two, I will hear from them. And it's gotten more dominant. I'm also suddenly getting little blips of weird geographic locations. Like all of a sudden, I'll think of a place in Portland. I've never been there, but I know exactly what it is, what's going on, who is there. It's the craziest thing. So it has to be telepathy. Maybe it's by location. I don't know. But anyway, so those are some of the cooler, more advanced ability. I mean, they're all cool, but those are some of the more advanced abilities that are there just waiting for you guys to tap into them and develop them. We have the abilities of all of these when we are fully 100% spiritual beings. So there's no reason we can't also develop them in this lifetime unless we are not meant to because of something in our soul blueprint. All right. So the biggest question that I get from students, from clients, all of that, whenever I tell them that they have abilities and that they need to look into developing them, the most common question, how do I develop faster? So it really causes me to go, wait, why? Why? What's your reason? So ask yourself, why do you want to have all of these advanced abilities? We all have a divine timeline, right? Divine timing with divine order. And within divine order, things have to happen in a very specific sequence. So, keep that in mind because when you look back, you'll say, oh, well, I have this, but it wouldn't have developed if it weren't for this. So we can't move past stuff quicker. You can absolutely hire a mentor, work with a mentor or an intuitive development structure or instructor, and that will give you the foundation to move you along. But that's just the beginning of your journey. The road is long for a reason. You have to learn to develop that self-trust. That's exactly why it doesn't immediately come to you. So that journey is so cool. It's amazing. It's the coolest thing I've ever done in my whole life. I don't have kids, so I can say that. And so I definitely recommend learn to develop your intuitive abilities, because even if you don't do it professionally, wow, the the ability to create your life circumstances is it's life changing. It really is. All right. So this is when I say I just talk a little bit about if you hire me as a mentor, you get um, 4 sessions where we take a deep dive into 9 topics, and then you get to choose 2 advanced topics. Mediumship and channeling, that's one. Akashic records is another. Soul blueprint, alignment, and shadow work is another. And then co-creation and manifestation. Each of the sessions is approximately 2 hours in length, and you get like all sorts of, you get a workbook and a discussion, and we do meditations. I give you practice exercises and resources, working with you one-on-one. And then you also get 8 video workshops that focus on some pretty popular metaphysical topics. And then each video includes a slide presentation, a guided meditation, and then practice exercises and resources if they apply. And then you self-direct through all of those topics to just sort of focus on further strengthening your connection. And then when you enroll in that program with me, you get the coaching tools and resources to go from being an untrained empath to a very powerful intuitive to master your abilities. So if you're interested in looking into more detail, it's on my website, thewokakashic.com, under the intuitive development tab. And it gives you the pricing. And then I also take payments. And if it's just something that you're like, yeah, I just can't do that, reach out to me, because I can work with you. There's all sorts of things. If you are really you want to do this, I will work with you to do that. So thank you. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your class enrollments, your bookings, your questions. I just love this wonderful group of people that I get to work with every day. Flora, let me take this opportunity to say that I appreciate you, my partner in crime, on this fun little journey.
I appreciate you so much. I just want to say, I took Joe's intuitive development one-on-one, and I mean, not only was she incredibly like just encouraging, because I worked with other people and a lot of it is like, it felt kind of limiting. Like, whereas like, no, it's going to be, you got to take time and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, no, like, you got this, you can do this. And all of the whole time, I just felt very empowered. So it was amazing.
That's how we found each other. She signed up, and then we were like, we missed talking to each other, because we talk to each other like every week for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks. And so we were like, let's just talk. And then we decided, well, let's do this thing in a podcast. So it's been a fun journey. The Woke Akashic, we both, because she also does classes and has lots to teach, lots in the books that we're going to roll out, workshops. We're actually going to do a retreat, so we have one on the books in November, correct? I haven't done the promo for it, but yeah, we have a retreat, meditations, intuitive mentoring, all of those things that you can get from us, the two of us. And also definitely our podcast, which is co-hosted by both of us. The listener feedback for it has been wonderful. Thank you so much. We're looking at other ways to get into those woo-woo, metaphysical topics. And so we're going to keep doing that. And hopefully you guys keep on loving it. All right, guys. Does anybody have any questions or anything, comments, suggestions? You are, there you go.
Hi. I have a question about telepathy. If when you were talking about that, is that kind of the same thing when people like travel in dreams? Is that astral travel? Or like, let's say you dream about someplace or someone and then it happens. So is that like a form of telepathy through dreams?
Okay, so for me, that sounds like
Oh,
precognitive
okay.
dreaming, where you dream about something and then it happens. A lot of times I'll
Okay.
dream about people. So, but here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing, it's all sort of intertwined. Like I said, it's layered. So you could be experiencing something where you're not only you're experiencing precognition, you're experiencing telepathy,
Mm-hmm.
you're astral traveling, and you're experiencing it in your dreams. So it's all, it just depends. So I don't know that it's as important, and not that you're trying to do this, but I'm saying that I don't know that it's as important to identify what ability comes through as much as it is to identify what is coming through, how you're
Mm-hmm.
receiving it, how you are receiving it regardless of the ability, and then thanking spirit and saying thank you, I'd like more via that
Hmm.
avenue. Yeah.
What about like with these are like I just wrote it down quick so I wouldn't forget to
Yeah,
ask you,
yeah,
but
no, this is great, I love questions.
like at death sometimes people like in particular my dad, I was with my dad as he was dying, and he left his body because he came back and told me he was at the lake that he loves, and it was in January, and he was telling me that it was frozen and that it was cold, and he was like all excited and he'd been like out.
Yeah.
Is that astral travel? I mean, I feel like he was, yeah, he knows he's leaving. Is that what that would be called officially, right?
So you could call it that, but here's the cool thing about death is that spirit, when it goes through the death process,
Hmm.
it's like, I don't want to hang out in that old body that doesn't
Yeah,
want to
I
work
think that's
anymore.
what was
So
happening.
yeah, so spirit like goes and does their stuff, right? They go on the other side, they go talk to, friends and family. So it's astral projection, but it's a different form. It's
Okay,
anything. But I mean, if you were gonna, yeah, if we were gonna categorize that, I would say it is
cool.
astral projection,
I was
or
just curious.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Oh, you're welcome. These are great questions. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions, comments, anything? All right, guys. Well, Fiora, to you.
Oh no, I just had a comment to make when you were talking about like discerning whether when you're getting a message, and um I know it's difficult at first because it sounds like you, but they're using you, so they're going to use your own vocabulary, like, so it's going
Mm,
to sound like you. That's normal.
Excellent point. Yeah, it is. And that would cause you
mhm.
to say, is this me or am I making this up?
Yeah.
And I always tell people, so what if it is you? It's coming from you and you're governed by your higher self. So it's not like you're not making something ridiculous up. You're not saying I am a purple elephant. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's not what you're saying. You're saying, I think I heard this thing. So sort of look at it with a discerning eye. Like, so what if I am making it up? It is coming from me. So it's coming from my intuition.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. What a fun class this was. Thank you guys so much for joining live. And those of you that couldn't join live, thank you so much for purchasing this download. I hope it's helpful. If you have any questions about anything that we talked about for either myself or Fiora, please post those in the group, the Woke Akashic group. And we definitely will answer those, because if you have a question, more than likely somebody else has a question too. All right. So I say to you, a peace out. Talk to you later. Bye bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.